Well, party people, here we are. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Postgame Dodger video chat thing. We don't really have a name for it. That's just what we call it. It's, very formal. Very formal. And the Dodgers are your National League champions. This is very exciting. If you are a fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers, as I am, we're quite excited. Let's see. There's that little graphic. Yeah, game 6. It's over, baby. It's over. And your Dodgers are going on to play the Yankees in the World Series. Oh, yes. Well, a lot to get to tonight, as we are joined by not one, but two special guests. I'd like to bring them on one at a time. I'm going to start with our longtime traditional co-host, Mets fan extraordinaire, America's favorite Mets fan, as I call him. It's TV's David Greenspan. David, how are you tonight? It's not good to be a Mets fan tonight. I know the pain and the heartbreak. I felt it for many, many years in the past. But how are you? How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm a pessimist, and I'm a pessimist for a reason, in order to not get my hopes up too high that I won't be destroyed. But I literally am grateful for this fun season. It was supposed to be a transitional season. That's what we told Max Scherzer, so that he would release his no trade clause.
Yes,
and
exactly.
to go pretty far in the playoffs in your transitional season. I'm grateful, and they showed they showed fight, they showed grit the whole season, and they just met a better team. Like, the Dodgers lineup is ridiculous. Every player that came up, even the role players I thought were role, like Pages and Edman and Kike, of course, like they're all batting like 358 in the postseason. They set the record for most runs scored in a postseason series. That graphic came up, and I was like, okay, I'm not going crazy. They just score and score and score and score. And then I was watching Blake Trinan. What is that pitch? Is it a sweeper or what? Like, it's unhittable. He's making these Mets hitters who were going up there. Anyway.
It looked
so we
crazy.
lost to a better team. Also, Shohei, the man's got a plan. Like,
Shohei.
I mean, you don't doubt Shohei. Anyway,
no, I never would.
We lost to a better team, and I hope bright things are ahead for us in the future. And I'm not too depressed. I saw this coming. You could see it coming.
I did not, but before we go any further, I'm very excited. We have an extra special guest to join us tonight. For decades, he was the leading voice of sports on the Central Coast of California, a longtime KSBY sports anchor and stalwart, a close personal friend who gave me the best advice about breaking into the business I ever received, and could be said to be at least primarily semi-responsible for my television career. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mitch Massey. Mitch, how are you, my friend?
My goodness, I get to it. David, it's nice to meet you. I'm just going to go. Colin and I, we haven't talked for quite some time. Colin, just because I want to feel at home, you must call me, or at least tell David what's the nickname you gave me, which lasted 4 years. And when I get together with Tony and Kelly and Brandon,
the old school,
I never called. So please share with.
Well, so here's the thing about Mitch. Mitch has always seemed like he was, 80 from the day we knew him, and so he was, of course, the grandpappy. And we would just say, and eventually it was just shortened to Pappy. Just the grandpappy. How you doing, Pappy? I think that was a Tony Coppola original, to be honest. But anyhow, Mitch, I'm super glad to have you join tonight. And for those of you wondering what the best piece of advice I ever received about my career was, I had done at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I had done an internship at WRC TV in Washington, D.C., working on a show called The George Michael Sports Machine.
Yeah.
And I came back to Cal Poly for my final senior year at Cal Poly. There were often multiple senior years. And I said to Mitch, I want to work for you in the sports department. I'm all gung-ho for sports. And he pulls me aside. He says, listen, pal, don't work for me in sports, work in news, because then if you want to go into sports later, you can, but the path is very difficult the other way. Long story short, he was super smart. He was completely correct. 9 months later, I got hired for a news producing job out of nowhere at my, after I graduated. And Mitch, thank you very much for that critical piece of advice that I will never forget. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. It's like I'm still trying to get a piece of advice that my boy said, Dad, you helped us this way. So you know, if I get you, I'm good. And David, if there's anything that you want to know, because I've lived longer than you, I was saying to my childhood best friend of 60 person, I said, you know, the last time the Dodgers and the Yankees were on the World Series, his name is Matt. We were 22 years old. Oh God, you can all figure out how old I am now, but that's kind of it. So it's nice to be part of your production, which is Camp Alligator or whatever it is. What a great name. We'll ask another time how you came up with that name, but thank you for including me. All smiles, and you're still to this day one of the naturally funniest people I have ever known. So thank you.
Mitch, I appreciate that. Listen, you do remember the last time there was a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. I saw just on the post game before we dialed over that they were saying, Mookie, you weren't alive the last time the Dodgers and Yankees played in the World Series. I was like, oh God, I remember the last Dodgers-Yankees World Series. You know, it was the epic clashes between the 77, 78, and 81 World Series where the Yankees took the first two in very dramatic fashion. The classic Reggie Jackson 3 homers and 3 swings game, etc. And then in 81, though, we finally kind of got our revenge, thanks to coked up Steve Howe. Listen, you know, it was the 80s. What can I say? They were ahead of their time. But Mitch, what does it mean that you get two of these classic franchises, Dodgers, Yankees? I mean, is the history just going to be dripping off of Fox full? You know, is it all going to be just montages of past Dodgers Fox stuff or Yankees Dodgers?
Well, when you looked at it and be sensitive to David, and you looked at it and said, well, Fox is either going to end up with 2 New York teams. You got the biggest market. Now you get the 2 biggest markets and the classics of Dodgers and Yankees. So as TV goes, and then within all of this is, if you can research it, I don't know the answer yet, but I need to find out. When was the last time a World Series matched the home run leader from one league against the home run leader in another league? So just the theatrics that go with it. You look at the pitching staffs, they're really kind of similar. And to say that the Dodgers are even in the World Series based off what they went into the playoffs with, well, I know he can hit the ball, but I don't know who's going to pitch. And then Dave Roberts has had the most magical and pushed all the right buttons. Tonight, giving up a home run with a guy coming in. Berger, he gave up the home run. But outside of that, it has just been no one. Being a true Dodger fan like you, Colin, is who would have thought that they would have any pitching? And it's been their dominant calling card.
Yeah, well, as Dave and I discussed on some past episodes, I really thought the longer this series went, the worse it was for the Dodgers. You know, because of eventually you just run out of bullpen arms and bullpen luck. But they had one more good game in them today, fortunately, and that led to the pennant clinching win. And the offense, what can you say? I mean, are they going to score 10 runs a game against the Yankees? I mean, David, why was Mets pitching as it is constructed unable to kind of put the clamp down on those Dodger bats?
I think I would say the main reason is that the Mets pitching, it's not overpowering stuff. Like, we're trying to dot the corners, and the Dodgers are just disciplined hitters. They don't swing at stuff that's junk, and then eventually they're going to have to come over the plate, because the Mets pitchers, although effective and not a bad staff, walked more players than any other staff in the National League. So I think we're too careful. We don't have enough firepower, except for Edwin Diaz, and the Dodgers offense just eats teams up when they don't have hard throwing stuff.
Yeah. What did you think? Oh, Mitch, sorry. Go ahead, Mitch.
I just wanted to say, Dave, is the Mets gave the Dodgers 42 walks, so 7 walks a game. Yeah. And then when you really want to dissect it down a little bit, okay, how many times I think tonight the Mets left 14 on base or something, but how many times were the Mets one hit away from changing the momentum of a few games, and they just couldn't get it? And then the whole time the Dodgers are playing, I mean, it was like an LA interchange. There's constant traffic going on the bases. So the Dodgers, hey, with their hitters, the discipline, they were given far more advantage just by 42 walks than you'd really want to give any team, even a team that can't hit well. That's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, we were always, that was always going to come back to bite us, and against the best offense in the National League, I think. But I thoroughly think that the Dodgers are a more complete team than the Yankees. They should win.
Well, should and could and will are two different things. I mean, you
Of
run
course,
into
should and
all of a
will are two
sudden,
different things. But I would, if I were
yeah.
putting money on it, I'd bet on the Dodgers.
Well, yeah, you and the ghost of Pete Rose. But the key for me is going to be the Giancarlo Stanton of it all, which has really revitalized what the center of that. If you go, Soto, whoever, Judge, Stanton, in any kind of combination, now you have a threesome that kind of stacks up against the Dodgers when they had healthy Freeman of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. And it's, it really is. I mean, it just comes down to the margins, what pitchers are going to be more effective. I mean, I think the other biggest break for the Dodgers was winning in 6, not in 5, because had they won in 5, the World Series would be starting Tuesday. They had a plan in place this year for the first time in a long time. If both series wrapped up in 5, they didn't want people sitting around for a full week, so they were going to move things up and start the World Series early, which, yay, there was flexibility. Somebody discovered Travelocity. It was great. They can figure it out. I always figured that was the lamest thing, where it's like, now we bought the hotels 2 years in advance, so we got to stick to the schedule as it is. But so they the break until Friday really does give both teams a chance to kind of reset the arms, see if maybe the Dodgers can get someone like an Alex Vesia back. I don't know what his strained muscle situation is, but having a second left-hander out of the bullpen going to be critical for dealing with Soto and some other Yankee bats that could cause some trouble.
Yeah,
and we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think you're spot on with Giancarlo Stanton, because the Mets swept the Yankees 4-0 this year, and we just pitched around Soto and Judge, and it worked. Like, nobody else could hurt us. And when you have Stanton, they didn't have Jazz Chisholm at that time.
Yeah,
but yeah, Stanton being a player like he was originally supposed to be is put them in the World Series.
Yeah. Mitch, do you have any AL favorites? Do you keep tabs on the AL, or are you more of an NL guy?
No, both. Just generally all the way around. So looking at the Yankees, and when you were looking at the Yankees, and all of a sudden they had a couple stretches where they were just tanking during the regular season, and then it was the Orioles' turn in which to tank.
Right.
And so when you break it down, you say, well, do the Yankees have enough pitching to sustain? But the American League was, I don't think, as vibrant and as tough as the National League. But so the Yankees went through, and I'm sure Fox is happy, because from a television market standpoint, that Cleveland's not there. Nothing against Cleveland. They do have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But when it comes down to the sexiness of being able to market Major League Baseball, you've got the two biggest stars, the two biggest markets, the tradition. And so when you say, what's this World Series mean? Even if you're not a real baseball fan, you're going to tune in because it has such marquee value. So the Yankees, as you, Colin, like always, you're such the best sports producer ever. So I think whoever told you to go into news is totally off base. But,
no, please.
But all of that along is that, yes, I think you can get through a couple great hitters, just like, get through Soto and get through Judge, just like Betts and Ohtani. But who else is going to come up? And then all of a sudden you look at these role players for the Dodgers, which includes Muncy, and it's like, hey, good luck to you getting all the way through, because these fellas are just on. And the starting pitching for the Yankees, suspect. Their bullpen, so-so. The Dodgers and confidence is, hey, if they get 4 innings from one of their 3 starters, they're locked and good. Yeah. And they can go and get you 7 runs a game. So it's just, I would think realistically, it would be a very offensive World Series because of the pitching being suspect. But I wouldn't have known the Dodgers would throw 4 shutouts in 5 games.
That was crazy.
take this to Vegas and see what you win. Well, I
Yeah.
never would have taken that. So, in memory of Pete Rose, as you would
Yeah,
say, Colin. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
I saw Pete in Vegas in the later
Me
years.
too.
Yes.
Me
Yeah,
too.
just sitting outside the casino, signing stuff for money
Signing
or
balls.
whatever.
Yeah.
Sad. Very quickly, Hall of Fame, Pete Rose, yes or no, David?
Yes.
Mitch?
Yes.
No, the answer is no. He knew the rules. He broke the law. He's gone. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, weren't you the one that brought up Steve Howe, and what was he dismissed 7
Well,
times? I think
listen, Steve might have done a little
you
time, I
want to
think.
talk about the integrity of sport.
Yeah.
I was on the Jim Rome show recently. We talked about this and went back and forth, and it's like, well, there's two sides, but again, you're going to have to let in the steroid era and the Black Sox, but at the same point, put an asterisk to it. What they did on the field, I'm a strong proponent. Where does character come into all of this? The integrity of the game. Okay, you bet on the game. And then what is kind of tongue in cheek funny now is, isn't that how baseball makes a lot of money now
Oh
with
my God.
DraftKings and everything else? So you just kind of, I think it's going to be, fellas, this generation, once we all kind of pass on, the next new one comes in. I think they will not have lived it. They would have heard, but I think they'll be a little more lenient. I hope so. I was hoping that he could get in while he was alive, but I think the steroid era guys put an asterisk next to their name, but what they did for the game was tremendous. But there's, you want to go to Ty Cobb. Okay. What kind of character did the late Ty Cobb have? Okay. You want to go to character of Babe Ruth. Okay. But it's that time which was accepted in a way. But if you want to throw character into sport, any of the sports, boy, that's a gray area.
What are you going to do with the Olympics? What are you going to do with football abusers? People who have a really checkered history. It's difficult. I get it. And I look on the field as a player. I'm wondering if there isn't some way to honor achievement on the field. That's separate from the Hall of Fame. Maybe maybe the All Century team, maybe something like that, where it's like you can't acknowledge because we all saw Pete Rose play.
Well, he's in the Reds. He's in the Reds Hall of Fame. That obviously is, and so what you want to do is just regionalize it. So that's good. But again, this is going to be the long conversation that will make podcasts and talk radio what it is. What do you think about this? You brought it out, and you probably asked 10 people that are pretty good with sports, and you'll probably get it split 5-5. But I just think if you want to take the best in the game, and when he was playing, he wasn't enhancing or using anything else. Well, he became a manager. Okay, I'm betting on my team. Okay, but as a player, you're going to go back to Mickey Mantle and say, how many times were you not sober while playing? I mean, it's just
as Mickey said, all he had to do was swing at the ball in the middle when he saw 3 coming towards him. So that was. Listen, I got a great comment here from our old pal Kenny Nichols, who says, Mitch and I had Pete sign memorabilia in Santa Maria a few years ago. I still have my card in the plastic case you packed it in or placed it in. Mitch, good job. That must have been a fun shoot.
Well, he was on 4 live broadcasts because he'd come to Santa Maria to play in this Cappy Hirata golf tournament. And the first time I met him, he wouldn't talk to me. He was going through a lot of stuff with the Phillies. And then the second time, I have 10 seconds for you. One question. And it was just I was putting off. So the third time I went and talked to him, he couldn't have been nicer. And the next year I went down live sports. He was just on. He was doing part of my sportscast for me.
Wow.
And then another time. And then when I was in Vegas, I went up to him. My boys were a little bit younger than they are now. Let's call it about 10 years ago. And I introduced him and he says, "You're the guy from Santa Maria, aren't you?" I said, "I'd be the same guy." And it couldn't have been more charming and nicer to my boys. But at the same point, like many of us, there are times where we're just not in a good mood to do really much of anything. And I caught wind of that, but I became a fan once I understood, and we would just sit down and talk the essence of baseball off camera for an hour. He was a baseball junkie to all stats and figures. So it was very enjoyable to see that side of him as a ball player, old school.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talked a little bit about the Mets. Oh, I want to catch up with our chat just to make sure we're we're not forgetting anybody out there. Let's see. Dennis Moss, a local ne'er-do-well, writes in. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my father-in-law. Let's see. Talk about getting Pete's mail. Well, that's true. Pete used to live. I live in the San Fernando Valley, and Pete used to live on a street that had my number, but was like one street over. And so one day we got this thing for Peter and Carol Rose or whatever, and I was like, Peter and Carol Pete Rose? And we found out, that was actual Pete Rose. He had a very nice house here in the neighborhood. And by the way, I don't live in the nicest neighborhood in Los Angeles. I want to just point that out. It's not like it was Beverly Hills or anything. It was the Valley. But he had a very nice house, and I guess he's friends with some people in the neighborhood. They knew him, and so we had our own little weird connection that way. Other than just kind of like, I don't know, when we were I can't remember what hotel he was at. Does anyone remember offhand?
Well, he was at Caesars an awful lot. That's where I've seen him a couple times.
Like we were walking to go find the secret pizza place or something there, and he'd just be out there, just hanging out, ready to sign. So I did want to go back to a chat message we saw before from Amy Huggins, who asked said, "Congratulations to the Dodgers. Celebrate with a new hat, please. Is there something wrong with this hat? Am I missing a hat? Is this? Oh, it's too small, I believe," was her critique. I have too big a head for this hat.
Treat yourself to a new hat.
You know what? Maybe I'll get one that says "World Champions" right over here. Oh, Colin!
Wait! Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, don't get ahead.
NLCS.
Yeah, National League champions. We'll start with that, and then
Colin, how about just a batting helmet and have the ear things on? That looks good.
Now, Mitch, that's how I went to junior high. So please. And just to prove that Amy has no taste whatsoever, Mitch, you seem very nice. Come on, man. Pleasure to listen to.
Well,
you know what? He seems nice, but then you know what? You tell him your sportscast has to go from 4 minutes to 3:30 on a Thursday night, because something else went long, and boy, you'll feel the wrath. You'll feel the wrath. I still have the burns, Mitch. The burns on my soul.
I promise not to bring up the legendary and God rest his soul, Rick Martel, to match those burns with other burns. Dave, you're totally lost between. You're like the middle guy in between this reunion between the two of us. Dave,
no, it's delightful.
Dave, how did you become a Mets fan? Why the Mets, not the Yankees?
I don't know. The first baseball game I ever went to was Royals versus the Yankees, and I don't know what it was. Like the Yankee fans from back then, they were like so entitled. Back in 1979, they felt entitled.
Ugh.
But no, I went to a birthday party in 1982, my best friend's birthday party, and Mookie Wilson hit a walk-off home run.
Ooh.
After making an error the previous inning to let the Cardinals go up, and I was hooked.
That's great.
And, I grew up closer to Shea Stadium than the Bronx. So
were you a Queens kid? Were you where were you?
I grew up in the
the suburbs,
just outside of Queens, the upper middle class suburbs.
Weird way to mention Staten Island, but I'll allow it. That's fine.
No, no. It's like more like Great Gatsby, like the North Egg.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, as long as you weren't in the Valley, you're okay.
Oh my God,
no,
the Valley.
I was basically in the Valley of New York.
The Valley of New York. Yeah. You should be so lucky to be in the Valley of New York. All right. So is it? I think all of these games were blowouts. Not a good game amongst them. Do we foresee the same happening in the next round? Do we think either one way or the other? We're looking at games decided by 5 and 6 runs. And Mitch, we'll start with you. What do you think?
To be able to see a series, and in the memory that I still have memories of, I have never seen any series that, well, you look at it, the closest game is 4 runs. There was no drama. Will there be a game that can be decided in the 9th inning? I think there will be an extra inning game and a 9th inning game. We can only hope, because that's what intrigues to make the sport. So let's have a good finish here, and to really see who can be those in war kind of athletes. It's who is Bill Mazeroski moments. Okay. Right. And people want to say, who's Bill Mazeroski? Well, let's
Not
let's
on
go
this
to the
stream.
highlights. Let's go
Not
to
on
Joe
this stream.
Carter.
Yes.
A 7-game home run. It's like these once in a lifetime kind of guys outside of the big name players, and hopefully, the Kiki Hernandez type guys. It's like maybe he has a big hit, but I know it has to be closer. And if it's like 10-8,
Has to be.
so be it. Yeah.
Yeah, has to be. David, what are you thinking? Oh, by the way, before you answer, I want to encourage our chat members. We're going to talk World Series predictions next. So if you want to get your prediction in the chat, what number of games, who's going to win, please feel free, and we'll ask the panel as well. But first, David, on the matter of the blowout series that we just experienced, will it continue in the World Series?
I mean, everything points to it continuing, but I know that it can't. Like, just the law of averages, you're going to have some games where. But I think they're going to all be high-scoring affairs, and you'll probably have a couple of games where they slug the crap out of the ball, and there's 2-run home run after 2-run home run, vice versa on either side. So you'll get a little bit more back-and-forth drama. Yeah. But these are going to be high-scoring affairs. And
did I pick up on the broadcast tonight? Did they say that the Edman double in the second was the first lead change during a game of this series?
Wow.
Right?
Oh.
That sounds right.
Yeah, because everything else, it was like 6-0, and then they made it close, but it didn't really catch up. So I that's what I hope for. Lead changes, some back and forth baseball, some really, tough decisions. Who do you pitch to? Who do you not? Stuff like that I think would be definitely preferred. As we do move on to the World Series, let's see what the chat is saying here. We've got yes. Dennis says yes. That's his prediction for the World Series. Yes. I agree. There will be a World Series. But I'm hoping for a prediction. Let's start with Mitch again. Mitch, Yankees, Dodgers. Sounds to me like you got the boys in blue, but you give me the final reveal here.
Well, considering I'm dressed the way I am, just because if I showed you from the waist down, I'm wearing swimming shorts. So
it's the sportscaster's uniform. We know that. I saw this for years behind the scenes at KSBY. So.
Yes, he was the producer that actually crawled under the desk to cut my time and say, "Hey, you're out. You're out."
Get out.
Oh God, I was tugged by my kneecaps. Is that my first instinct is to say Dodgers in 7, a 7-game series.
Dodgers in 7. All right, I would be excited about that. David, how say you?
Oh, definitely Dodgers. It's definitely not going 7. I'm trying to decide if it's going to go 5 or 6. I'm gonna say 6. Dodgers in 6.
Yeah, I think that feels about right to me. My favorite prediction, though, came from my beloved wife, Emily Campbell. Dodgers in 3. And I like that. I think it's very possible, sweetie.
Well, you tell Emily if the Dodgers win it in 3, Pete Rose is in the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Wait. That would
Colin,
be unusual.
I have a question for you. Like,
please.
If Pete Rose shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, should the Astros have that World Series stripped away?
Yes. They cheated.
Oh, okay, good. I just want to make sure you were
no. That when there is
great question
proved cheating
in the game.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. To affect the actual game you're playing.
Yes,
in.
Yeah. That's guys, worse than the Black Sox.
Should Altuve should never make the Hall of Fame.
No.
Okay.
No, a confirmed cheater who cheats is a
cheater. Okay. All right. As long as you're consistent, I just wanted to know.
Yeah. No. The problem I had with that whole thing was none of the players were punished. But the players were the ones who all benefited.
And they got to keep the ring.
Right. And it's like, and I when you get into like, oh, you should take away their World Series title or vacate it, that sounds very, like NCAA punishment of the Michigan football team in 1982 or something. Like nobody ever remembers that. Like how many national championships have been vacated by the NCAA that you are like, well, but they still won the title that year. Like, I mean, you're still just nobody, it's not like, oh, yes, there's that gaping hole in our memory for the year that Reggie Bush got improper benefits. I remember it well. No, you remember the games, the players, the things. And I know there's no way we can go back and erase the Astros-Dodgers World Series or any of the Astros, success in the early days of their run. And they've had quite the run. It's gone on and on for quite a long time. I just think, when you get into removing championships. I think they should be removed, but I think it's just impractical. I don't think there's any way because, are you throwing out the baby with the bathwater? Was everybody in on it? Who was not? But I was disappointed there was no individual repercussions for members who were confirmed to be participating in a scheme to defraud the fans of a fair contest.
Well, to the credit of Major League Baseball, they did take this step and removed all metal trash cans from the dugout. You just couldn't hey, hit it twice. That's a curve. Yeah. So their compliance, no metal trash cans.
Those those rubber trash cans just don't make the same quang, I guess, when you hit them. Let's see. Amy jumped in with her comments. I think Manfred said long after, I think, that he screwed up by not punishing the Astros. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And as for the World Series predictions from one who had no dog in the fight, let's correct the record here. She did have a dog in the fight. That dog was the Philadelphia Phillies, and that dog was, frankly, eaten by the New York Mets. True?
Well, I figured if you're talking about something eaten, are we transitioning into politics now?
No, not yet. The New York Mets were eating the dogs that were in the fight, the Phillies. The series was disappointing as a fan. Let's hope the World Series is better. Sure. Of course, who doesn't like good baseball? I love good baseball. I love it even better when your team wins. That makes it even more fun for me personally. But look, I was completely prepared for the Dodgers to at least go 7 in this series, and I still think, to bring it back to my World Series prediction, Dodgers in 6 I can get behind, unless they have a complete bullpen breakdown. This team will go as far as bullpen games let them. And if the Yankees have a different approach to attacking the Dodgers relievers, or now they've seen enough of, on tape from how the Dodgers have used their relievers this postseason, then there's always a chance that the balance could shift. And you're only going to be I still think the pitching is going to have something to say at the end of the day. And if the Dodgers end up losing a bunch of games 10-6, 10-7, because the Ryan Braziers of the world, or the other kids who, are barely, on the team or filling in for the injured of the injured, are unable to keep the Yankee bats quiet, then it could be a very short series the other way. But if the pitching holds, this has always been my thing with them, the Dodgers for this year, if the pitching holds, I think we have a chance to win the World Series.
Let me ask the question, and Dave, please jump in on this if you'd like. It's more directed towards Colin and the Dodgers. Do you hold Buehler out until you go to New York for 2 reasons? He's tough as can be on the road, and he really pitches well in cold weather. Or do you use him in the first 2 in LA, Friday and Saturday?
Boy, that's a tough one. Dave, what do you think? Would you go get Buehler out there, or leave it,
Based on what I just saw, I would pitch him in New York.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, he'll be like the most rested starter, right?
Yes.
So he should, be good to go. Yamamoto should be recharged by then, and Flaherty hopefully will have a bounce back game.
I mean, they're all going to be rested, right? I would.
I mean, they have 5 days off now. So
I would start with that fucking bullpen, honestly.
Start with a bullpen game on game 1. Just get out of the way.
Dave, it's like an all-star game. You just bring one guy in, one inning. And so your starting rotation is 9 guys. And it is the first time that in history that when you look at one of the teams coming into the World Series and you want to say, boy, I hope we don't face their starter. It doesn't matter who starts, who pitches, whatever. Just they're going to throw 7 to 9 guys at you constantly. And that's completely different. But there's something to be said. If you got some arms and you don't get to see the same pitcher twice, that's going to keep a lot of hitters off balance. It obviously worked in this series pretty well. And so when you look at those hitters that the Yankees can load up on, but then they're not going to see the same guy the next time through. There's a lot to be said to that.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I wanted to call up here. I have the ability to do so in just a second or two. Give me 1 sec to get this set up properly. I wanted to call up the schedule for the World Series. and take a look at what we're looking at. There it is, the 2024 World Series schedule. Your Yankees and Dodgers. I guess the Dodgers have the first two games at home, Friday and Saturday. Then it's off to New York for games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then at game 6 and 7, if necessary. I'm guessing will be. Well, I blew the little website here. Next Friday and Saturday as well. So Friday night at Dodger Stadium, we'll see how it starts to come across for your
Dave and
bullpen
Colin,
Dodgers.
are you a fan more of the 2-2-1-1-1 series setup, which obviously for years it was, or this 2-3-2 setup?
Dave, well, you go first while I fiddle in the background here.
I hadn't really thought about it until there was some announcing saying that it's truly more of a home field advantage for the 2-2-1-1-1 for the team that's supposed to have the home field advantage to have it, and because if you steal one on the road right away, then the lesser team has flipped the advantage. I think I don't want this World Series to go on until it's freezing cold. So I don't think home field advantage means so much in baseball. I like the current format.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The 2-3-2 just has always made more sense to me. You can't. It's in basketball or hockey or sports where there is like built-in off days between games that back-to-backs are very rare. It makes sense. You could do a 2-2-1-1-1. But in baseball, like we're so conditioned to the 3-game series, the 4-game series, the little homestand road trips, etc. I just think that's the right way to do it. And especially in a series like this, I mean, you'd end up flying the teams back and forth from New York to LA over and over and over again in a bizarre, that would just the travel would just be too much. It would affect the quality of play, I think. So yeah, I like the 2-3-2. Frankly. Let's see. Dennis, my beloved father-in-law, chimed in with, are bullpen games only a recent phenomena? Well, I'm not sure. There have been bullpen games before, but it seems like managers more recently have been starting to just kind of like announce them ahead of time, and as a solution, they kind of plan for these off days for their pitchers. And I know the Dodgers, especially with Yamamoto this year, had a very interesting conundrum. Yamamoto had not worked a major league schedule before. He'd worked a Japan league schedule with an extra day off. He
was used to having 6 days off between starts.
Yeah. Wow. So I know they wanted to ease him into the
I feel like
major league schedule, but
didn't the Tampa Bay Rays innovate this whole thing?
Yeah, I think this goes back to their whole analytics, craziness, where they really did jump on to every statistical edge they could possibly find, and finding out that much like tonight when the Mets brought in Diaz in like the 3rd or 4th inning,
leverage time,
right, and like that's the time that you got to bring your best pitchers in to face their best hitters. And so I think that has become much more common. And I think the natural kind of evolution of that was to lead to more kind of like what we think of as a bullpen game now. But, we were talking, I think, in the last series, too, when the Dodgers were trying this, about how the bullpen game for the Dodgers earlier this year was always like 1 inning from a guy and then maybe 4 or 5 from like a Ryan Yarborough or somebody who could go long for you. And then bullpen out. The Dodgers against the Padres really just did that 1-1-1-1-1-1-1. Everybody gets a clean sheet at the top, and here we go. And that was really interesting. And I hadn't seen that specific technique. It always looked like a bullpen game. Usually, you're just trying to eat up innings. You with start with a guy, bring in another guy, so you've messed up their left, right, and then see how it goes from there. But I don't know, Mitch. Did you remember bullpen games back when you were a young fan?
When my hair was a different color, is that what you're trying to say? Yeah,
no,
thank you. I need a hat, but my head too is Charlie Brown size too big. Is what I do remember part of all the analytics, and Dave, you're right on about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers using the analytics because that was their great advantage, and they would use these arms. And the term you heard tonight was they got these leverage pitchers. Once we get into the 7th, 8th, and 9th, we got to our leverage guys who we know or can just shut things down. And so what they would do is they would take these leverage pitchers and what do you mean your closer is now in the 5th inning? Well, I'll tell you what, and it's exactly what the Mets manager said tonight is we're bringing Diaz in for 2 innings. If he can just hold him, that's at least going to give our offense to get back into the game, but you have to use that leverage moment. So I remember Tampa Bay doing that. I also remember Tampa Bay taking out a great starter, and all of a sudden it blew up on him, but whatever his name is.
Oh yeah,
Blake
Blake
Snell.
Snell. That was the Blake Snell game, right?
Blake Snell, yeah. Yeah, it's like,
it.
well, he's pitching great in the Dodgers. Well, thank you for handing the Dodgers the World Series. But beyond that is what was also into it is that if you were a team, and usually teams try to have 4 starters, 1 through 4, some 1 through 5. But if you could only have established 4 starters, then you went to this bullpen. Okay, that's going to be our 5th starter. And so when you look back and you say, what are these teams doing? Let's say they only have 3 good starters. They got to throw a bullpen game in there so they give a little bit more rest. But it's really established the bullpen guys are like your 5th starter, and that gives the team a little more breathing room in a long season.
Yeah. Just to talk about how much the game has changed so much over the years, I caught this stat the other day and thought I'd share it. The 1965 World Series, Dodgers versus Twins, the legendary Sandy Koufax starting Game 7 on 2 days rest.
Yeah.
The winning pitcher in all 7 games threw a complete game.
Yeah, like
all 7 games were complete games by the winning pitcher. Crazy. Well, like that, talk about things that will never happen again in baseball. That will never happen again, for sure. Because the game has changed so much.
People are just throwing their arms out. They're just
right. Well, that max effort on every pitch. It's difficult to learn how to pitch when you're busy, just throwing like crazy.
Do you remember in the early 80s, Billy Martin's managing the A's, and every starter, you're going to throw 200 to 300 pitches a game. It was back in the Matt Keogh days and a few others. And needless to say, a few years after Martin left, these guys' career just tanked. But it was like, now it's like a pitch count. And you look at a guy and says, well, he's about 80 pitches. He might get another inning. No one goes 100. And then when you look at complete games, how many complete games in all of baseball were there? Can you count them on one hand?
Maybe.
Not a lot. It's just, that's the old school. The thing is 5 innings, 100 pitches. And now we're going to set up our bullpen. And that's what baseball is today. Yeah. So to the old school of baseball, even back into, the 80s or let's say the 90s when the Atlanta Braves had an amazing pitching staff. You just don't see that anymore. It won't see it anymore. And when 20-game winners were accustomed to be, at least we'll have a few every year, you'll be lucky to see guys get 15 wins now.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely an evolving game always. That's one of the reasons we love it. So Amy points out it wasn't crazy back then to have, all those complete games, but will not happen now. And along the pitcher use topic, will any of the injured pitchers be back for the World Series? Well, that's, the worst nightmare for Dodgers was always that, Dave would like throw Shohei out there for an inning, if he needed to. And it's like, please no, please do not do that. The big question, obviously for the Dodgers will be Alex Vesia. If he can get back from his pulled ribs or intercostal injury or, whatever, they always give some very technical term for it. If he can get back out there and give the Dodgers that second left-hander, that would be a real help against the Yankees. And, although I do think Anthony Bonda has been doing great for them, kind of as a Vesia light. Loaded the bases tonight, but worked out of it. Seen some good signs from him. I think they're, having 2 strong lefties, shutdown lefties who could come in, maybe one for the 6th and one for the 9th would be really, really great to be able to kind of hopefully neutralize some of the big bats on the Yankees.
Well, when
no word on Vesia yet. I haven't heard what his update is.
Well, when you look at Trinan and you want to say, and you guys are talking about, I don't know what he was throwing. What he does is when the ball's thrown back to him, he has a wiffle ball in his pocket. Then he puts the wiffle ball in his hand and he throws the wiffle ball. And we've all ever tried to get a wiffle ball. That movement is unbelievable. I don't care if you're right or left-handed, man. It's who knows where it's going.
Yeah, that it's the idea and we talked about this too, the new pitches that have come out. There's all of a sudden, now there's this, it used to be a slurve, I think is what it used to be called, right? The slurve. Anyone remember the slurve? But now it's what do they call it now?
Sweeper.
The sweeper, and it's sweeping the nation, sweeping arms onto the injured list, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I
Hey,
have no doubt.
speaking to arms on the injured list, and I'm just bouncing. I'm going
Please.
squirrel on you off a lot.
All
But
good.
how much do you put into that? These arm injuries that have gone up is because there's a pitch clock. They got to move a little faster. What do you think?
I maybe, I don't know. I think it was happening even before the pitch clock. I think it's the spin rates that they're checking the spin rates and everything. I don't think the pitch clock is helping, but I think it was happening before that.
Okay.
Put me down for more data needed, but possible. I think it's very possible. Obviously, yeah, the introduction of spin rate. Whoa, man, this is now like a, I spun it faster than this guy. Or, it gave, competitors another thing to shoot for. Oh, I've got the spinniest curveball in the league. Oh, I've put the most torque on my arm out of anybody. It's like, I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. You should throw the ball.
Remember playing stickball and throwing a tennis ball, which has no resistance.
That's right.
Anytime I tried to throw a curveball, my elbow was killing me. And I think these guys are just going torque crazy.
Yeah, it's just, I can't be good for the long-term health of the game. And I know, like all of the people, I think I saw this again. Don't quote me on these, but like most of the people who received Cy Young votes last year were on the injured list this year.
Wow.
In the National League. Most, if not almost all, spent time on the injured list. And it's just the cost that people are willing to pay these days. They'll miss a year, 18 months, in order to have a Cy Young style season. And I don't know that it's fair for us to ask them to make that trade. I'd love for there to be a happy middle where, you can throw the ball and you don't have to throw it 1 billion miles an hour every time, throw with skill, throw with accuracy, throw with, things that we used to kind of value, but now it's just heat, and spin. And both of those are very difficult for people to maintain, I think.
But when you throw a bunch of Mets guys who are not doing max effort and they're trying to nibble, and then they have to bring it across the plate to these monsters, it's you're not going to win a 7-game series. You can maybe win a 3-game series, but you're not going to win a 7-game series.
It's funny when you mention Mets and max effort. I'm thinking about like a Bartolo Colon. Did that guy put max effort into anything?
Hit one home run, though. One home run in his career.
That's right. It was a good one, too.
No, I mean, Quintana is not throwing maximum effort. Minaya is not throwing maximum effort.
Right.
But
and they had
I guess when they saw Minaya a second time, they were like, okay.
Well, I guess they'd kind of figured a couple things out, which is tough, because he was so effective in that first game. So
you can go back and say, okay, if you want pitchers today to emulate anyone, okay, Maddox and Hershiser, they did okay, and they would work in today's era because just enough velocity. But then you look at the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw. Hey, he's got to throw, as the term would be, a lot of junk, but the positioning and just that speed difference. Okay, so you throw a curveball at 62 miles an hour, and you follow that up with a fastball at 82. And so it's that timing is constant off balance. And that's what makes some of these pitchers just great, is because they know how to mix up these speeds with a collection of, let's say, 4 pitches. Yeah. And that is classic. The power pitchers, with these power hitters, you say, hey, I'm going to wait for your one mistake over the plate, even if it is 99 miles an hour. And bingo, there you go. But boy, those pitchers that can work the edges and placement and speeds, there just aren't many of those left in baseball.
Yeah. Amy did a little research on the pitch clock and says that the players say the pitch clock has nothing to do with the arm blowouts. She did do some research on that, and pitchers say that's a BS. In addition, one of her favorites, Steve Carlton, all finesse, arm was fine for 30-plus starts a year. Yeah, I mean, it's the idea of, the super speed fireballer used to be such an anomaly. Like you knew all of them, Nolan Ryan, J.R. Richard. Like, you knew the ones who were like throwing 100. Now every team has a guy who throws 100.
How did Nolan Ryan do that for so long?
He's freak of nature, my friend.
Yes, very strong legs. Yes.
Have they named a series MVP? You know, I've been here on the stream. I haven't been keeping an eye. Make some predictions and I'll Google it. Who do you think should be the series MVP, David?
Tommy Edmonds.
Yeah, Edmund or Hernandez.
Yeah, Kike. Well, did you see that defense he did today? Yeah, but I think.
Filling in and making that
And
bounce.
he played 8 positions. I mean, he definitely. God, the Dodgers are glad they brought him back.
Yeah, right.
Fortunately, yeah.
The answer: Tommy Edman.
Yeah.
Tommy Edman was named the MVP of the championship series.
Talk about a pickup, but for the Dodgers, if you can get any players that have had an established career with the St. Louis Cardinals, you're getting a pretty solid player because that's quite an organization. And considering the Dodgers' Achilles heel through so much of their history are the St. Louis Cardinals, so you get a solid guy, a switch hitter, with all these positions. Yeah.
Poetic. But who thinks the Dodgers are going to pick somebody up at the trade deadline and he's going to bat 4th for them? What the hell?
And it's not like he's a giant power guy. I mean, they were saying on the broadcast, 5'10", 185, much like me.
Yeah.
That's right.
The 5'10".
Thank you.
It's the 2 extra pounds is the hat. Thank you.
It's all hat, no cattle here. I think what the problem
trade deadline. Okay, let's go to next year just for the fun of this conversation. My feeling is that the Dodgers will go get the shortstop from Milwaukee to come in, and that's going to be their big pickup guy during the offseason to get someone who's a legit shortstop and they can pay the money. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Willie Adames, yeah. Well, because Milwaukee's not going to pay him.
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, goes without saying.
The Yankees, the only one's going to pay Soto the $500 or $600 million that he's going to require.
Look, I'm guessing
Steve Cohen wants to pay him, I think.
Oh, he can.
Who does?
Steve Cohen.
Oh, of the Mets? Yeah. Well, moving from the Yankees to the Mets and kind of moving, not unprecedented, right? There's been a couple of famous high level players who've gone back and forth.
I don't know about high level players.
Dwight Gooden?
Was Strawberry one of them?
Yeah, but Strawberry and Gooden did that. Well, Strawberry went to LA first, right? But they weren't in their prime when they did that.
I see. Yeah, Soto, a lot of people forget that kid is what, 25?
It's
ridiculous. So good.
Strawberry and Steve Howe were in the same club, right?
Yeah. Well, the entire 86 Mets were high cocaine. Maybe we should bring that back.
Yeah.
Yes. Boy, baseball. It's so funny.
Wow.
My favorite book of all time is Ball 4. The Jim Bouton diary of the Seattle Pilots. One season of existence, and as a young teen baseball fan, that really just kind of opened my eyes to like, what? Oh, I see. Everyone's on drugs. Fantastic. Okay, that's great.
Well, Doc Ellis pitched a perfect game that he can't even remember.
Right.
That's a good one.
Blasted out of his mind on LSD, I believe. Right. So
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amy is back with some more Philly love. Phillies may offer, I'm guessing that is the moon for Soto. Sure, but I mean, would he fit in Philadelphia? One of the things that we talked about during the I talked about with Amy during the Phillies run this year was the chemistry of that team and how important that has been to Philadelphia's success. They are a bunch of grinder guys. And I don't know if a Soto would bring that kind of chemistry in. He's a little bit of a more flamboyant kind of player.
I'm a little worried about the Mets bringing him in. He's an unbelievable talent, but I don't want him to screw up our good OMG vibes.
Yeah, and also honestly, if you're a star player like that, he's a star player, but he can hide himself within other star players. So if you want to say, God, is this whole organization going to sit on my success? He's well protected with Judge and Stanton. If he comes through and it's New York, and I said, if you start getting into that money thing and the Yankees at least get close to matching, hey, if I can stay on the Yankees and I'm protected with some other stars, we're going to be a lot better as opposed to one guy that I'm not going to get the pitches I want to see. Look at the pitches that Betts gets sitting behind Ohtani and then Freeman. It's like, yeah, pick one.
Yeah.
No, I mean Soto. Come on, with that short porch in right field, would just stay there if I'm him.
Yeah.
The biggest question I have going into the offseason now: what happens to Grimace? What happens to Grimace Tree? What are you going to do with him?
I think he needs to lose a little weight. I think
Grimace needs to go into a workout off season.
He needs to go.
No more shakes, buddy. No more shakes.
We don't need another Daniel Vogelbach on this team.
Oh my goodness! There's been a Daniel Vogelbach reference. Now you know this is a baseball stream. That's awesome. Yes.
Hey, may I ask
please?
How do you know Amy? Because she's really engaged to this. And she should just be on the show.
I have pitched her 100 times to come on. She was here to watch the Phillies. I think she watched a Phillies Mets game with us earlier this year. Or, Amy, remind me what game you came over for. Amy is a friend for almost as long as you, Mitch. An LA-based reporter. Worked at KCAL, worked at Channel 5. Before that, worked in Houston and Miami. And had a great TV career, and then a long behind-the-scenes career at CNN, working for Larry King and others. So she's America's favorite Phillies fan, as we call her, because she really is a Philly faithful, true, and we love her. And she's one of our super nice for her to
have her on for one of these World Series games.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. And then anyone the guy brought up Boog Pal, I'm thinking I just need to meet anyone that brings up Boog Pal.
Yes,
oh my God, that's taking me back to when I was 10.
Yeah, is this on the weight loss kick, Dennis? Is this when Boog also needs to lose a few? I'm not sure. Boog, the grimace of his time, I suppose.
Anyone named Boog.
Oh, you gotta love Boog. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out. I see a lot of people have joined us via YouTube and also via Facebook. And don't forget, we're reading your chat on the air and reacting. I'll offer either of you the opportunity to step out if you would like. I mean, we can talk a little bit longer if you want, Mitch. I really appreciate you joining, but I don't want not a hostage situation. You are free to go at any time.
Wait a second. Being incorporated into anything that you are involved with, my servient behavior becomes I'm in.
Well, thank you.
Whatever you want, I'm here. I know who has power over my brain.
Oh, please. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's been great to have your thoughts on this.
It is fun.
Now you've been, I'm sure, when you were for those who don't know, Mitch was the lead sportscaster at KSBY in San Luis Obispo for many years. When the Dodgers made the playoffs, like back when you were on air in San Luis Obispo, did you ever make it down for a playoff game at Dodger Stadium? Did you ever do any kind of like live coverage or anything from there?
No. That's back when, my God, how do you go live? I mean, today you just have your phone and go live.
Right.
No, I never did, simply because it's like I would go down and cover, let's say, the Dodgers and the Giants. We at the time were carrying Giants games in the early 80s. And so we had this show that we had to put together. And that went on for the first 3 years I was at the KSBY. I think that's back when TV was in black and white. I'm not sure. But beyond that is that covered all-star games, but never went and covered playoff games. I mean, I got the opportunity when I went to other TV stations because bigger budget, satellite trucks, all this, to be able to cover, Super Bowls and Rose Bowls and all sorts of different things, but never a playoff baseball game. Never.
Oh, wow. I know it San Luis Obispo is kind of a mid-major. It's not really not a major market. It's kind of a mid to mid-small market, I guess.
It's like AA baseball. That's
right. Yeah, that seems about right in the TV broadcasting world. A lot of people did come out of AA, though, and go on to big careers in our business. I know the alumni from our era include CBS News' Lee Cowan, I think was
Sandra
there.
Moss in San Diego for years.
Sandra Moss. Kelly Kobiea, I think, who's on CBS Nightly News or CBS Evening News. A lot of it's a great place to work in the business as a sportscaster. Obviously you were a sportscaster in a college town, which is great. And the sports at Cal Poly at the time, I think when we were working together, were not as important as they are now. How has it been watching the evolution of Cal Poly sports as it migrated to becoming like a full Division I school?
It's Division I, but it doesn't present itself on a level of consistency to be competitive on a Division I scale. It doesn't have that same ambiance that you want to have, even though it's a great front running town to say, hey, we got a team that's good. But when your two marquee teams, meaning those that fans would come and see, are football and basketball, and those over the last 5, 6 years have really not been successful. I mean, their basketball team has lost 38 straight conference games. I mean, I don't think anyone can match that or
Right.
would want to. So if the new coach wins one this year, that's 100% more than they've done the last 3 years. But just things like that. And
Yeah.
you know what? And Colin, is as you have witnessed, is TV was great before the internet.
Yeah.
The internet comes in, and so where TV news was the leader, and you would tune in to say, I want to see my team, or I want to see the headlines. Now it's so secondary. By the time you get into a newscast, it's like, well, I've already seen that three or
Right.
four times. And then the unfortunate thing is, Colin, you being a hometown kid of San Luis and myself many years, KSBY doesn't even, they haven't had sports. They don't have a sports part in their news since January. They cut it all out.
Oh,
No
wow.
sports,
Because there's
nothing.
no market for it, no benefit to it.
I will obviously disagree with that because of all
Yeah.
the high schools and this and that. It is truly a corporate direction that their ownership group has gone with all their TV stations. People don't watch the sports, but at the same point, it's in your playbook. There is a portion that will watch, or you engage with them. I've always been, as you've been in LA for years, I was
Yeah.
a huge I was an intern for him and then a big fan of Fred Rogan. The way he did
Yeah.
sports, he kept a human interest side to it, gave you just enough to hit the headlines, boom. But he also was able to get that non-sports fan to come in. And
Yeah.
that's the way to do it. And that's how you have to look at it. And with TV news, wherever it is, you still tell stories. And if you tell stories better than anyone else, you'll get people emotionally connected, and they will want to see the presentation. Oh, what story are you going to tell me now? Because as you alluded to, what we're talking about this game, there are stories within the final score outcome. But what are those stories? And we, as three, kind of start going through, and what about this story? Provoking thought. What about this story? Because that's what makes it. It's who you share the experience with on the
Yeah.
journey, not the end result. So we're talking about things that are the journey, and that's the story, and that's what makes this really very rewarding.
Yeah, and obviously the TV has changed so much that these days they'll give any joker a show on the internet.
Thank,
So, it is
thank you,
difficult.
Batman. Yes, thank you,
Yes,
Batman.
exactly.
Yes.
Uh, I'm yeah, it is definitely, I can't tell you the last time, and I worked with Fred Rogan here in LA for many years
Yes.
as well. I cannot tell you the last time I watched deliberately a Channel 4 newscast. I'm ashamed to admit, as a local news junkie, I love local news, and I worked in it for a lot of my professional career, and
Yeah.
it doesn't, for whatever reason, it doesn't have the only local news I've seen recently have been algorithmically driven pieces that
Yeah.
YouTube has said, "Oh, you might like this KABC story about the Cosm venue down at Hollywood Park,"
Yeah.
or you might like this KNBC story about the crackdown on scalping at Dodger Stadium, or whatever it is.
Sure.
If it gets surfaced to my feeds and stuff that way, I see it. But other than that, it's kind of out of my day to day rhythm, which is
Well,
sad.
yes. Colin and Dave, is what TV news has become, in a real simple way of putting it, is it's a bunch of order takers. I
Yeah,
am just trying to get information out, whatever it is, because I have to put so many feeds and so many platforms. And it's like,
right,
who gets the opportunity to tell a story? And even if you want to tell the story, you have seven other platforms you're trying to get information to.
right,
So you're just an order taker. You're just trying to keep up,
right.
and out you go. And that's where that soul of what TV news has
Mhm.
been, journalism has been, even for newspapers, which are used to be around, and even aspects of radio, is why do people want to go to podcasts? Because you know what? It's provoking thought. There's conversation. If you want an opinion, left or right, you can get it. But at the same point, you get to interact with it, kind of the way TV was. You got to be part of it. You got to interact with it, whether it be I like writing a letter, I don't like what it is, but that was your home. That was your source of information, which now is, where is it anymore? There's
Right.
no concept to say this is hometown media for us. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know if it's better or worse, but it is definitely different.
Dave, do you watch TV news? Do you watch TV news, Dave? Yeah. What do you watch? Where do you take in your information?
I get a little update on my Alexa, and so it's and news stories on my phone or news stories on Yahoo News. I'm reading it, and I'm listening to podcasts like the New York Times, the Daily, for a deep dive on stuff. But yeah, that's how I get it.
It's funny. My 11-year-old has she entered middle school this year, and that involves like a 1-hour bus ride and coordinating pickups and stuff. So we got her her own like iPhone so that she could be in touch if we needed to reach her or something. But she's been listening to the MLB podcast in the morning, the daily whatever the MLB 10-minute morning wrap up is, and I was like
That's cool.
so surprised by that. I was like, really? But it's just as we kind of build our new information universes, there will be all kinds of different little bits and pieces that we grab. I've plugged it before, I'll plug it again, and I hope some of the people from the chat there have joined us. The writer Molly Knight has a great Substack, with a couple of paid columns, one free column on Fridays for anybody who wants to read it, and on paid subscriber only chats that are the kind of conversations I want to be having that you can't have on social media platforms anymore because it's all so full of garbage. You end up kind of like trying to create and find like a little community of some kind, which is kind of what the best parts of local news did back in the day. It made you feel something about your community that you actually, especially if you're in a smaller town like San Luis Obispo, you really do feel, a different kind of connection to San Luis Obispo when you hear the news about San Luis Obispo than you do when you hear news about Los Angeles, which could be and you live in Los Angeles, and it could be, I don't care what happens in, Pacoima or Pomona or, any of these other places. It makes it really difficult for it to have the same kind of impact. It did.
Amy, I know you can hear me. I can't see you or hear you, but I keep reading. I'm just becoming a fan. If we're able to connect after this, we can just talk about how we would turn the world of journalism back to the world of journalism. I just like what she's saying because, as she said, if it's not in your own neighborhood, it's like, hey, we block it out. And there's so much noise that goes on, obviously, with the world being attached to your phone and everything. Is like, I just want to relax and take care of what we can, and that's our own neighborhood. And what is it? And to be safe and at peace.
And people ask me, why do we call him the grandpappy? Well, there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why right there.
Well, I am one because I do have a grandson. So
well, congratulations.
Our youngest son, Michael, has a boy. His name is Jacob. He's 9. So
Jacob.
Now we're turning into Family Values TV just for everyone.
Well, let's bring it back to baseball as we try to wrap this up and get ready for what sure to be a banger of a World Series. Yes. David, any final thoughts on the Mets journey, the magical Mets, the Alonso miracles, the Francisco Lindor miracles? Certainly some great highlights in this year's repertoire for the Mets to put in the memory bank forever.
I think I said everything. I would like to see Pete Alonso come back next year.
I'd
like, David Stearns to make that happen. And no, I'm just like I said when we kicked this off that I'm very hopeful and optimistic for the Mets' future. I think we've got a bunch of up and coming guys, and we're trying to turn our franchise into Dodgers East Coast, and I really hope to be in the playoffs a lot more coming up. So.
I think that is a very attainable goal for what I saw from this team during the playoffs. And, a little bit of magic here and there never hurt any team. And I know they benefited from good karma. And it seems like a good group of guys. And I hope definitely more success to them coming up. Mitch, you've obviously this is your first time with us. I really, really appreciate you joining.
Been fun.
I never really knew. Are you like? I know you said you're kind of a Dodger fan. Are you like a full blooded L.A. Dodger like longtime partisan? But you just hit it all those years when you were on TV and had to cover the Angels and Giants. Oh God, whatever.
No, I growing up in Newport Beach, I have some basic teams. USC football has been our family. Season
Yes,
tickets for
I
over
remember
100
that.
years.
Yeah.
Do they need a new coach? Okay, that's another podcast, and I'll say yes to that. But that aside, because that's more a religious side of me,
I
because I
see.
grew up with a button that says God is a Trojan. I need to change my religious direction, I think. But other than that, I'm probably, if I had to put them in order, I'm a Lakers fan first.
Oh yeah.
Then I'm a Dodgers fan, then I'm a USC fan, and that would be where, if you look at my office at work, it's definitely those three. And I have my Laker courtside chairs that I bought to put in there. Just, it's a little Hall of Fame, and I am a man who's very proud of all his dolls. I have a boatload of bobbleheads, and I
Nice.
have all these first year cards, which I've spent a fair amount of money on. But if you
Good
want Babe
collection.
Ruth rookie card, and they're all graded about 8 because the 10s are out of, but a whole
Right.
host of them. It's just,
Oh,
I'm
that's great.
I'm a product of an environment that I wanted to be in since I was probably 7 years old. So yeah, I'm old school Dodgers, probably understanding the Dodgers in 1966 as my great grandmother would listen to the games on the radio. It's like,
Yeah.
what is this? So that's where it kind of goes. The genesis goes back to. So I'm right there with you, but a great respect for all sports fans, and because we are called fanatics, and there's a reason for that. And in a world that is just whatever it is, our therapy break is sports. We
Yeah.
go nuts, but it's a good kind of nuts. So it's
Yes.
okay. Yeah.
I
Go Mets. Yeah.
that's what I love about it. We are positive about our fandom, and that has been one of the best parts of the communities I found myself a part of is it's okay to root for your team, but you don't have to make fun of other people's teams or like whatever. Just root for your team and enjoy it. This was a lesson that, believe me, was taught to me by my dad in the stands at Dodger Stadium watching Pete Rose play, because everyone at Dodger Stadium booed Pete Rose, and I joined right along. And
Uh-huh.
Howard Campbell said to me, "Son, why are you booing him?" I said, "Cause everybody else is, and he's a Reds and he sucks." And my dad was like, "Yeah, that's not it. He's actually really good, and you should really think about that kind of thing before you
That
join in." And I was like, "Okay, old man, you know some
Yeah.
things."
I think that Big Red Machine was the greatest group that
Yeah,
was ever put together as one team. And that's why we Dodger fans, oh my God, those Reds, you can't beat them 70, 71, 70. Yeah, they were just impossible.
yeah,
But that when you look a 1 through 9 and pitching, Sparky Anderson had an amazing group of players. I still think they're the
yeah.
best team ever.
Oh, definitely. I would be, best group like with a 4 or 5 year run. I think they're right up there.
Yeah.
Those 71, 72, 73 A's though were pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and still the A's in one of those 3 years, only once did they, garner over 1,000,000 fans. I mean, it's never
Yeah,
been much of baseball. It is unfortunate what's happened, but
yeah,
that A's team, yeah, but you just wanna start going, okay, Johnny Bench, best catcher ever, to Pete Rose, Tony Perez, Davy Concepcion, George Foster, Ken Griffey Sr. Oh my god, I've just lost
yeah.
most of your audience because no one's that old, but it's just that kind of stuff.
Amy?
That kind of Amy, yeah, right. Hey, Colin, and closing, so I don't miss this opportunity, is even though we haven't connected, some people write a chapter in your life in this big book that we all write, and you have lived in my heart
Oh,
ever since the early days, for all the right reasons. And to be able to come back to this reunion and meet Dave, who's had to kind of tolerate this love fest that's going on each side of him on these screens, is I adore you, man, and what your
oh,
life
thanks,
is,
Mitch.
and to see what you do with your girls and your kids. I said, you are the spirit of this community. You are the spirit of whoever wants to engage and take some time to talk with you. They will walk away smiling, not only because you're funny, but you're very thoughtful. So
Oh,
well done.
Mitch, I really appreciate that a lot. That
Yeah.
is extraordinarily kind. And can you come back for the World Series? I would.
Hey, I just want Dave to come back to talk about the Yankees. That's what I want to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if we can convince him. We're accepting applications for Yankee expert. We had a Padre expert on for the Padre series. We had a Mets expert on for the Mets series. If somebody wants to be my Yankee expert, but we'll bring the whole roundtable back every now and again. Get one or two more of these before the playoff journey is over.
If you want to extend the invitation, again, it's an honor just to be part of what you're doing, because it brings back these memories. And as long as you call me Slappy, I'll be with you the whole
Grand
time,
Slappy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
The variations continue. Well, Mitch, thank you again so much for joining. Thank you so much for your kind words. I could never ask for anything kinder. You are a very gracious, generous, and fantastic man and mentor, and I appreciate your appearing here tonight to celebrate with us. But I guess celebrate with me only. Because I'm sure Dave is still, stewing a little bit.
Wondering, why am I here?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all good. So let me just say again, thank you very much, Mitch Massey, for joining us. We will see you again soon, I'm sure, and it will not take a live stream for us to chat with each other. Sound good?
And I will send you a few dollars to get a bigger Dodger hat for the next time we're on. Okay,
please. I need to upgrade my chapeau for the World Series. All right, Mitch, we will be in touch, my friend.
Dave, delightful to meet you.
Great,
and
likewise.
So whenever I see anything that's associated to the Mets, as long as I live from now on, your face is going with it, man.
That's great.
Thank you. Great to meet you, man.
All right. Thank you so much. Mitch Massey, ladies and gentlemen, a great San Luis Obispo legend in the sportscasting world, and a mensch, if you will. I don't know if you will, but I will. That man is a mensch. So there you go. Gree, thank you so much again for all of your help during these live streams. I know we both, had some, it was, I appreciate the commitment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I know you have a full and busy life with kids and family and all kinds of other stuff.
This is a great way to reconnect with you, Colin, and I didn't think I'd have so much fun watching my team get eliminated.
Well, hopefully next year we can do it, and maybe the outcome will be a little different. But
that'd be nice. Yeah,
I really do appreciate it. Please give my best to your family.
I will. Likewise to yours.
Thank you, and we will catch up with you real soon, Fred.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night. That's David Greenspan, the world's nicest Mets fan, who is willing to come on and discuss the National League Championship Series, which has ended with the Los Angeles Dodgers moving on to the World Series, meaning, yes, you're stuck with me for at least 4 more games. But I want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight. Obviously, Dennis, Amy, all the favorites. Dawn, I know. Dawn was in earlier. Dawn Rosnowski, I think. How glad am I that my father-in-law heard that? Well, listen, I paid Mitch quite substantially. Quite substantially. It's there are 4 zeros on the check. Let me just say that. So, it was this has been a real fun opportunity to share some baseball knowledge and share some of my friends' insight with y'all. And I hope we get a chance to do it again real soon, maybe even Friday night after Game 1 of the 2024 World Series. New York Yankees versus Los Angeles Dodgers. We will look forward to seeing you then. And until then, please have a great evening. And have a great evening. I'll figure out how to end the stream sometime soon, I promise.